Okay, this is an article, I think it was in the New York Times, entitled "Why Not Bring a Neanderthal to Life?" I'm going to read this out. Now that the Neanderthal genome has been reconstructed, my colleague Nicholas Wade reports, a leading genome researcher at Harvard says that a Neanderthal could be brought to life with present technology for about $30 million. So why not do it? Why not give Harvard's George Church the money he says could be used to resurrect a Neanderthal from DNA? I'm bracing for a long list of objections from the world's self-appointed keepers of bioethics, who must see this new Neanderthal issue as a research bonanza. Think of the conferences to plan, the books to publish, the donors to alarm. I can imagine an anti-Neanderthal alliance between the religious right and the religious left, like James Dobson and Jeremy Rifkin, what I like to call the holier-than-thou coalition opposed to new biological technologies. But I'm afraid I can't see the problem. If we discovered a small band of Neanderthals hidden somewhere, we'd do everything to keep them alive, just as we try to keep alive so many other endangered populations of humans and animals, including man-biting mosquitoes and man-eating polar bears. We've also spent lots of money reintroducing animals into ecosystems from which they have vanished. Shouldn't we be at least as solicitous to our fellow hominids? A man walking his dog is seen through a cut-out silhouette of a Neanderthal at the site of a monument in Mettmann, Germany. Granted, it would be disorientating and lonely for the first few Neanderthals, but it would be pretty interesting for them as well as us. What would a Neanderthal make of Disneyland or of World of Warcraft? If our species disappeared and a smarter species took over the planet, I'd take the opportunity to be resurrected just on the theory that being alive beats being dead. That's interesting. I'd take the offer to be resurrected just on the theory that being alive beats being dead. Oh, don't get me started on that. What do you think? Should we try to resurrect Neanderthal? And if so, what kind of precautions should we take and what kind of lives should we help them lead? I welcome all answers, but I hope that we won't be distracted by talk of genocide or slavery. Yes, previous encounters between advanced and primitive civilizations did end badly for the primitives, but I think it's a stretch to imagine today's human beings trying to exterminate or enslave Neanderthals. Let's assume we'd do our best to treat them well. How much would they enjoy living today? How much would we learn from one another? Okay, I'm going to read through some responses that were made by readers after the article, about the article, concerning the article. And I'm going to pass put my input into what I think about the comments that were made. Okay, so the first one. Resurrecting a Neanderthal through a DNA technique is the least we could do for the Neanderthal species, given the fact that our modern human ancestors most likely committed the first genocide ever when they made war with Neanderthals rather than made love with them. Our DNA proves it, given that there is no indication of crossbreeding between our species. Well, that's in contradiction to what I encountered in my research. We Homo sapiens, as we are prone to do, replace them with us. Not a pleasant thought, but true. We owe it to the Neanderthals if we could do it. So this is all tied in with the notion of actually benefiting somebody if you bring them into existence, which is the product of a sick, insane, irrational mind. It really is. You're not bestowing a gift if you bring somebody into existence. If you create somebody, you're not doing them a favour. It's just a warped mind postulating sentience as advantageous over non-existence of sentience. Next one. I agree. I think it would be fascinating to see the Neanderthal interact with technology and see how far our brains have come to have been able to handle all the things that we do. I'm all for it. Yeah, so it's all about, he likes the idea of seeing Neanderthals brought back to life because it'll fascinate him, it interests him, it stimulates his mind. He's not thinking about the welfare of the Neanderthals that could be created in the future. I think it would be an interesting and worthwhile endeavour to revive some Neanderthals. There is a fair chance that much could be learned from a pathological standpoint. So again, it's all about interesting people who currently exist. The way parents want to be interested by creating life and be stimulated by creating life. It's playing God. It's creating toys for the needs of people who currently exist. I think it is foolish to come this far in our progression of scientific discovery and advancement to turn away based on the opinions of some self-proclaimed pious zealots. Well, the people who raise ethical concerns about these issues are not proclaiming themselves to be pious. It's just the opinions that are expressed reflect a concern for the consequences we have in the here and now on the future scenario in which we are creating more pain and suffering for our own edification. Honestly, I can't see anything at all wrong with this scenario. I've got all my fingers and toes crossed. This will be awesome. So again, it's just getting all excited about it. It's hideous. Next one. Considering this is a sentient race which, due to the sins of man or the faults of time, has gone extinct, I think we have a duty to preserve and protect them. They don't need to be preserved. They don't need to be protected. They don't need anything. It's just you and your selfish ego and narcissism that you think you can play God. Next one. In a truly advanced civilization, there would be no question of whether or not to bring this hominid to life. The idea that it should not be done would be looked upon as a symptom of mental disorder. No, it's you who has the mental disorder and wants to play God, not people who raise objections to these kinds of sick experiments. I'm all for it. The idea of having another type of human alive on this planet again is exciting, so it excites you and you want to play God. We should all do it just because we can. Oh, that's brilliant, that is. Let's have an ethical discussion about it. We should do it just because we can. What a moron. And to satisfy our curiosity. Yeah, the way that if God had actually existed, it satisfied his curiosity to populate the planet full of animals eating each other and killing each other, and all this hatred and violence. What else? But being alive beats being dead. I often see this odd cast of thought, the inability to grasp the concept of non-existence. It's not as if there is a Neanderthal out there somewhere in the ether thinking, oh boo-hoo, I wish I existed. To those who dwell in this land of Platonic forms, I recommend the first precepts of Vulcan philosophy. Nothing unreal exists. I find this odd fallacy often lies behind the arguments of some people that I was selfish in choosing not to have children. Argue long enough and one finds that they believe little Benjamin and Sarah and Kaylee are out there somewhere, sad that their mother didn't have them. Yes, that's a valid point. I can't fault his logic there, and he's gesturing at the insane, irrational views people have about procreation. But then he says, I am all for bringing them back to life. What's the difference between bringing a Neanderthal to life and bringing a human being into the world? So, yeah, there is no difference. It's still equally ethically dubious. Right. By the way, we don't need George Church to pull this off. It could be done better and cheaper without any genomics. I say go ahead and make them. Bring back the Neanderthal, and its life would benefit us by understanding the power of environment in shaping the brain and culture. Yeah, it would benefit us. Would it benefit the Neanderthal? No, we don't need to think about that. They were in the White House in the last administration. Well, I don't know much about American politics, so I'll leave that one for American YouTubers to reflect on. I think this is a great idea. Along with the woolly mammoth, the bioethicists can wring their hands and worry, but what a great thing to bring an extinct species. We destroyed so many species, and here we have an opportunity to bring one back. Not that this makes up for all our follies, but it is a start. It wouldn't make up for any follies. It wouldn't make up for any previous follies. It would just add to all the follies we've ever made in terms of reproducing and procreating. And this kind of irrationality and insanity and lack of moral integrity and intellectual dishonesty about what you're actually doing when you create life is absolutely horrifying, not just as it relates to human procreation, but as it relates to possible future consequences. If technology goes ahead and we can create new species at will, and we get all excited, and interested in what we can learn from them, rather than any ethical considerations, that this could be an absolute disaster. I mean, if the human race actually begins to branch out into the universe, and heaven forbid this actually happens, but if it does, you are going to get people not just talking about bringing one member or two members of a species into existence. There are going to be debates about populating an entire planet with Neanderthals or who knows what. People will want to create their own little planet of the apes, and just branching out in the universe and just procreate and just creating all these lives like God and populating the whole entire the whole entire galaxy as much as they can with sentient life, thinking that they've done the universe a favor, or they've done the sentient beings they've brought into existence a favor. I mean, can you possibly begin to imagine all the pain and suffering that would ensue if mankind branches out into the universe and starts doing all this shit? It's disgusting, it's frightening, it's terrifying, but I'm just trying to take solace in the optimistic hope that it's all going to go pretty pear-shaped soon. I mean, it's plausible that the human race will just hit a brick wall in the next few centuries. I certainly think we're in for a very rough ride this century, but time will tell. Time will tell.